YouTube, welcome back to the channel. It is your boy RD5, aka Ryan Dugan, and I am back with another video on thoughts and interpretations going over last Sunday's game against the Tennessee Titans, along with what Seahawks fans should be looking out for this Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings. As always, drop a like on the video if you enjoy, and let me know down in the comment section what I can improve on or what I missed, what I can go over. And without any further ado, though, let's jump right into the video. So obviously going back over and watching the game film from last Sunday, my immediate thoughts and a lot of the things that I have written down here in my notes obviously is, some negative things that happened throughout the game. But I obviously didn't want to make an entire video with, only negative things kind of thrown in there, because I thought in week one, we did look like a very well-rounded team. So I did kind of just want to brush over, obviously, those negatives and, what we can do, in my personal opinion, to improve on those or change so in the future we don't make the same mistakes. And, I think at least on the offensive side of the ball, in terms of time of possession, it looked like the Tennessee Titans had 38 minutes compared to the Seattle's 21. That's just obviously not a good stat as it is right there. And I think that, the main contributor to that was the fact that we looked so one-dimensional on the offensive side of the ball. It could have been D. Eskridge not being in there as well, too, to run jet sweeps and use that pre-snap motion to help the quarterback out, like I was talking about in my last video, help the offensive coordinator out and set up future plays as well, for that matter. But that was just something that I was so high on, obviously, after week one, was our use of pre-snap motion and, our ability to help Russell out and help him read pre-snap where they were going to be rolling coverages to and who was going to be, blitzing off the edge and, all the sorts of good stuff and the small, minute details that, help an offense continue to be consistent. And along with, pre-snap motion, I think that obviously last week on first and second down, we were ultra aggressive with, throwing the ball and keeping the ball in the air rather than just rushing it on first down. But again, just that one dimension kind of came back to bite us in the butt. Last Sunday, we had 11 carries on first down for 29 yards, obviously 2.6 yards per attempt there. And then passing, we were 7 for 9 for 119 yards, averaging 12.2 yards per attempt. And, those are huge stats from 2.6 to 12.2 in terms of yards per attempt. And I think that our lack of aggression on first and second down obviously caused us to get in situations where the defense was able to just pin their ears back and rush at the quarterback because they knew what was coming. Another huge stat just to throw in there as well too is on early downs considered first and second down, we ran 53% of the time. So over 50% of the time we were rushing the ball on first and second down. And again, going back to our, lack of pre-snap motion and being creative in the run game, that was the whole, big thing over this offseason was getting Shane Waldron, because he was the guy that comes from the Sean McVay and, Kyle Shanahan tree of being creative with the rushing attack and not just lining up in a running formation and running the ball, obviously, but being creative with how you're running the ball. The lack of jet sweeps. I think we had one jet sweep that we ran to Freddie Swain, and he's a guy that I think we can utilize a lot more in that area, especially if we don't have D. Eskridge in there. Obviously, D. Eskridge has that speed and that acceleration, but Freddie Swain can definitely get the job done. And, even just a pre-snap motion to utilize to help Russell distinguish different coverages that the defense is throwing at him as well, too. It was just a really disappointing display after seeing such a well-balanced offense in week one. Going into week two at home against the Titans last week, we just didn't have that same versatility, and we just weren't as unpredictable as I think we were in week one. So then, you take all those stats that, I presented to y'all on early downs and first and second down, and that directly contributes into us being 4 for 12 on third down all day last Sunday. And, we were 4 for 8 the previous week before, but that's just obviously unacceptable to me for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. And I think all of us, 12 Seahawks fans saw this last Sunday that without the explosive plays that we had, specifically on offense, mostly in the first half as well, without those explosive plays, we, are not even moving the ball down the field. We're a very stagnant offense, and, We were very predictable pretty much the entire game. Specifically in the second half, going back when I was looking over film, our offense in the second half last week had 6 points and 176 yards in the second half, compared to Tennessee's 22 points in the second half for 318 yards. So we just got destroyed in the second half. Our defense was struggling, gasping for air, because they had the ball the entire second half. Going back to the time of possession was 21 minutes to 38 that the Tennessee Titans had. And that's just obviously not going to get the job done. And with all that being said, in my personal opinion, what I think needed to get done is we needed to figure out a different way and a more creative way to run the football. Obviously, we do need to establish the run, and that's what helps the center play action and boot game as well, too, to be a more consistent offense and move the ball down the field, continue to be unpredictable. But we just lacked creativity in our run game. In week 1, we had, jet sweeps and pitches out on the edge to, get Gerald Everett blocking out in space. And I only saw one block on a pitch play where Gerald Everett was able to get out on the edge and block a perimeter defender, something he does an excellent job in doing in itself. There wasn't any misdirection that I saw happening as well, too. Just straight up runs, getting in running formations on early downs, first and second down, and running the football right at them, trying to make it into a slugfest. And specifically with our center position, that's been a position of concern for quite a few years dating back. That being said, we had Kyle Fuller, according to Pro Football Focus, graded as the worst offensive lineman this last week with a 36.7 grade in the run and a 29.2 pass block rate. Again, according to Pro Football Focus. And we had another, huge offseason need in our cornerback position as well, where we bring over Akilo Witherspoon and he doesn't pan out, and we give the job to Trey Flowers. And I thought Trey Flowers did an abysmal job at the position this last Sunday. He just gave up way too many big plays, deep ball to Julio Jones on a post route. He gave up a double move to somebody else during the game as well, and on Derrick Henry's long run in the second half that sprung the comeback for the Tennessee Titans. He was the guy who needed to come down in the cornerback spot and fill a hole, and at least just slow Derrick Henry down, get in his way so that we can, rally and have other people getting to the ball carrier. And, Trey Flowers just could not even do that. Somebody who originally was a safety before and has been great in run support and just wasn't able to make the play. There were just too many big plays that Trey Flowers gave up, and it's that lack of comfort when he's out there that, makes me as a Seahawks fan uneasy. I'm sure it makes the coaches uneasy as well, but we're going to have to see Sidney Jones and Bless Austin and, what they can do in that role behind him. I know Pete Carroll in his interview didn't necessarily have a lot of support for, Trey and I guess DJ Reed as well. But DJ Reed has been doing a fine job besides that super unfortunate taunting penalty after he broke up the ball to A.J. Brown. But again, I really think that Trey Flowers just gave up way too many big plays, and the cornerback position and the center position specifically were probably our two biggest needs for this past offseason, and we just did not do a good enough job over this last offseason of filling those holes, filling those gaps. Which brings me to, start talking about something that is probably my biggest concern for the Seahawks, and that's Pete Carroll's mantra of, playing not to lose. It's seeming like that's sort of coming back around in this second week here where, we get up to a big lead and, our offense coasts and we want to run the ball on first and second down and try to pass the ball on third down to make it when the defense already knows what's coming. And that obviously does not work. So, that combined with the fact that on defense as well, too, we play this bend but don't break sort of cover three where we drop back in a deep zone and give up our underneath routes and have our team come down to tackle. And that didn't pan out the way that it should have as well either this last Sunday. All we needed to do was, stop Derrick Henry in the second half, and he absolutely exploded in the second half. Along with the fact that Tennessee was just able to run the ball even when they were down and be effective at that as well too. They were super effective running the ball, passing the ball. They were just able to do whatever they wanted. That may go into, the offense and their lack of, being able to hold on to the football to sustain drives, to keep the defense on the sideline, to give them a little rest so that they're not tired the entire game. But, just that's my biggest worry at the moment after, seeing week 1 and week 2 is Pete Carroll and how he's running the football team as the head coach. I seriously think that, if our offense keeps their foot on the gas pedal and if our defense, still plays that bend but don't break, we win that football game very easily. So for me, it's, the offense's lack of consistency and Pete Carroll's, lack of, staying aggressive throughout the game in order to win the football game and play to win rather than just trying to play not to lose. Now, just to quickly go over some positives that, obviously happened from last Sunday as well. I think Tyler Lockett has been playing absolutely phenomenal in his role. I think a big part of that is DK Metcalf finally getting that superstar attention that he deserves and should be getting. But, defenses are, rolling coverages over to him, and that's allowing Tyler Lockett to get one-on-one coverage. He has a 95.8 Pro Football Focus grade against single coverage, which is first in the NFL right now. And obviously he's getting those single coverage looks because DK Metcalf is over there getting the superstar treatment that he deserves. I really thought that our offense did an excellent job in that 2-minute drill that we had right before the end of the half, where we moved the ball super efficiently right down the field because of that up-tempo that we were using. Didn't necessarily see that up-tempo at any point throughout the entire rest of the game. But we obviously used that up-tempo in the 2-minute drill, about to run out of time before halftime, and we moved the ball extremely efficiently right down the field and scored a touchdown. And again, whenever the ball is in Russell Wilson's hands, he makes something happen with it. Bobby Wagner, having 20 tackles this last Sunday was another huge positive. I mean, he's in his 9th year, came out of the same draft class as Russell Wilson. And he's, still playing at an elite level, 100-plus tackles over his 9-plus seasons, still playing like a tackling machine. And that in the middle of the field is giving the entire defense that safety blanket of, this guy's going to make the play. And I do feel like I need to add that, there were quite a few penalties from this last Sunday's game that, obviously I am a Seahawks fan, but I'm pretty unbiased when it comes to, deciding whether something is a penalty and, just being fair about that sort of thing. And the game was quite one-sided when it came down to penalties. You could clearly tell that the NFL has made it a priority to, keep games close. And as soon as they see that games are pulling away, they will 100% start throwing penalty flags out there for the team that's going to be down in order to, help them catch up just that little bit more. One huge example of this was Michael Pruitt, number 85 for the Tennessee Titans. He's their tight end. He was the one that Jordan Brooks ended up, tackling slightly out of bounds, and he got the 15-yard penalty against him. But immediately, after that, he gets up and gets in Jordan Brooks' face and then gets in Jamal Adams' face, and, they don't throw a taunting, penalty on him for whatever reason. And as I previously mentioned before as well, the DJ Reed taunting penalty that they ended up throwing was a very ticky-tack call, in my opinion. Just taking the emotion out of the game of football is never a good thing, in my opinion. Football is an emotional game. You're supposed to go out there and lay everything you have out there on the line. And I just don't agree with the fact that, you can't celebrate getting up from making a huge play on third down and, forcing them to punt the ball away. I also think that what they've done with the roughing the passer call, in overtime, that extended that drive on a third down, where Jamal Adams hit him slightly high. He came in with his hands, but he made somewhat of a helmet-to-helmet contact with Ryan Tannehill, and they ended up throwing roughing the passer on him as well. That extended that drive, and, there was just numerous times throughout the game that you could tell the NFL was trying to keep the game close, and they were going to do anything that they could possibly do to do so. So obviously a lot of negatives, a few positives from last Sunday as well too, but I think that moving on and looking at, Seattle versus Minnesota coming up this Sunday, the biggest keys that, us 12s and Seahawk fans need to look for is, our offensive consistency and whether we're utilizing first and second down to stay ahead of the sticks, whether we're being aggressive and, using pre-snap motions to keep the defense off balance, stay unpredictable, and help Shane Waldron and Russell Wilson both figure out what coverages they're going to give with certain personnel and certain formations. Because those early first and second downs are going to dictate whether the defense is going to be able to pin their ears back and just rush at Russell Wilson, or if we're going to keep them off balance and, stay in those third and manageables where we're going to be able to pick up that first down and keep the drive rolling. Another major key is obviously going to be how creative we're going to be in the run game as well. Again, that's going to go into pre-snap motions and some jet sweeps as well. But, how can we misdirect the defense and continue to be unpredictable? That's got to be the huge word that, I obviously keep harping on and y'all keep hearing. But, we need to keep the defense off balance to be a more consistent offense. We can't just line up and have the defense know exactly what we're going to run and run it, because that's just old school football, and there's a new wave of football coming in. And then with all those, different things on offense as well, it's just going to be, once we do get a lead, barring that happens, obviously, but, when we are in the lead, are we going to take our foot off the gas pedal and kind of coast our way to the finish line, or are we going to stay aggressive and continue to, play to win and just remember that, it was Russell Wilson and throwing the ball through the air that got us all the points in the first place. Not going away from what was originally working, but, continuing to keep your foot on the gas. And on the defensive side of the ball, I am surely going to be watching Trey Flowers. That is our Achilles heel on defense, 100%. I think that our offense, made it so that our defense was obviously very gassed towards the end of the game. And I think that they can come out and play much better football if our offense is able to sustain some drives and move the ball down the field. But Trey Flowers is going to be that guy that I am watching on defense, because he has just given up too many big plays. And we need to figure out what's going to happen at that position going into the rest of the year, because we cannot leave him out there on an island and continue to be comfortable with that, because we've seen the results not only just this year as well too, but in previous years as well. I was, slightly optimistic with the fact that we did trade away Ahkello Witherspoon, and, Trey Flowers won the job, and, that was all fine and dandy, but, you can't come out and lay an egg 2 weeks in a row and continue to be confident in Trey Flowers' cornerback play. I'm really hoping that, we see some Bless Austin or Sidney Jones action out there, just to see if we can even rotate guys in there to, have Trey Flowers out there in certain situations and, have Sidney Jones out there playing that cover corner role that he's very, very good at and has been over the years. Bless Austin is a guy that's been really good on run support that I've watched in film. So seeing if he can come in there and stick his nose in there and make a play. So, there's just different people that can play that spot, and we may have a good rotation going, but we're going to have to see some rotational play going in there, because Trey Flowers has just not been cutting it as of lately. I'm also going to be looking for penalties and how much we can cut down on those silly mistakes. DK had 2 holding penalties in which he was clearly holding the guy, and he wasn't even attempting to block him or drive him at all, but he was just holding him. And it was an easy call for the ref to make, and that's 10 yards, which puts us behind the sticks and not ahead of schedule. And there's just no way to have 10 penalties totaling for 100 yards, 3 of which, extended drives on a third down. So, there's just no way to have that amount of penalties and be successful and win a football game. So 12s, the optimism is there. It's definitely out there for us to go and take. We're going into an 0-2 team, possibly with Dalvin Cook not playing as well too. I noticed that he didn't practice for a second straight day. And if they don't have Dalvin Cook, their entire offense is going to be, sort of on the back burner there, because Kirk Cousins is not going to be driving that ship. Not super confident in his quarterback play, but the optimism is definitely there, and the chips are on the table. We're going to have to see how Seattle comes back and makes an adjustment after getting punched in the mouth, specifically in the second half against the Titans last week. And I just want to thank you all for watching all the way through, all the way to the end. Down in the comment section, if we want to get a little score prediction for the Seattle Seahawks versus the Minnesota Vikings coming up this Sunday, I've got the Seahawks winning. I think it's going to be a close game, just because that Pete Carroll mantra of keeping it close. But I'll say it's going to be 28-21, and Seattle is going to come away with the victory there. But let me know down in the comment section what y'all think the score is going to be. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and drop a like on the video again if we enjoyed the content. But again, this has been your boy RD5, and much love, and I'll see y'all in the next video.